Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling. I should have seen what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today, where we're relaxing as per usual. What about, you know what I can talk about? Blood on a Clocktower. Whoa. So that was a thing. If you tuned out all, for one, hold on. Has a new series gone out? Did I title the first episode? I did title the first episode. Okay. Fawnhallow Porcupine, new series. Whoa. It's very interesting. The struggle I'm having with it at the moment, I will say, is the fact that it saves very infrequently, and I only play for about an hour at a time. The first save came in at about 45 minutes in, and I was like, this is really awkward timing. But we'll see how that goes. Hello everyone, right now in Fawnhallow at 6:10 PM on Monday, November 24th, 2025. I don't know, maybe I need to find like a list of like where the save points are in Fawnhallow Porcupine, so I know when I need to cut an episode weirdly short or something. Do you think someone's done that? Fawnhallow Porcupine save points. No cloud save, no game not saving. I don't know. Checkpoints are few and far between. Oh, it sounds like it's going to be so painful. And doesn't even let you know where they are. It also resets itself if you so much as leave a screen, even if the game is still open. What? Interesting. Okay, so I think probably what I have to do is I have to play this game a bit differently, is the fact that I have to literally just keep playing in a session until I hit a reasonable stopping point. Which feels insane to do, because I'm basically going to be guessing, like, oh, when it is or not. So I don't know, but this series might have some really long and really short episodes, because it's very unsustainable. My nickname's Swanky. But yeah, what we can talk about is Blood on the Clocktower, because if you tuned in on Sunday stream, that was essentially what I was doing. Oh yeah, quick Umumi's May update, how's it going? I've got to round A finals. I've got a pretty decent win rate, like 75% win rate. It's actually a lot higher than I expected. Anyway, sorry. Blood on the Clocktower, because that's what happened on Sunday. Is like I had a stream, and then I was like, okay, I have like a hard out at like 5 my time, because I was going to play Blood on the Clocktower. It was from a friend's, like friends, I suppose, connections, and their group of like people that they hang out with, and like one of their friends was like, I want to host a Blood on the Clocktower, and they obviously asked me, was like, hey, do you want to like check it out, join in? And I was like, oh, Blood on the Clocktower, like I've always been very interested in what that is to play, and I'll be like, let's go for it, you know. But I think, you know, to be fair, I was also reasonably hesitant, because I feel like I've spoke about it a lot in my past, is that social deception is something where I'm just like, ugh, you know, I don't know if I like burn myself out on it. I don't know if it doesn't sit right with me anymore. But it's also been like quite a while since I've done social deception. And my feelings were always that, like, I don't think it's that I'm against social deception. It's just like once I play too much of it, I'm just like, I'm now bored of it. And then the only thing left is just to lie to my friends. But I think, you know, after I can say more after that fact, you know, playing, so Blood on Clocktower last weekend is like, I guess I got over it. To be honest, I don't know. Maybe it was only for a period of my life where I was like, I just had a strong rejection against social deception, and then I genuinely don't know what the answer is. Like, there's not really something which I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to a therapist and talk about this, because I don't think it matters. It's just more like, it's weird to think about. There was definitely a period of my life, and maybe like the past 6 or something years, where I was just like, it's not like I hated social deception, I was just like, I didn't really like playing it. But now, I don't know, maybe I've grown as a person, and I, you know, realised that was a short-sighted sort of mindset of being like, of course, you know, I hadn't properly disconnected with the idea of recreation versus reality or something. I don't know, like I'm just postulating. But I had a really good time playing Blood on the Clocktower, to be honest. As I said, like I had watched kind of like the dropout one, because I was like, okay, let's try and figure out what's going on. But they had like a load of custom roles in there, and I was like, I don't really know what's going on, to be honest. So it was really helpful to play it properly with someone who actually knew how to run it, and then could explain everything which is going on. But there's a lot in the game which actually has got my analytical brain being like going into hyperdrive, being like, whoa, this is interesting game design. Blood on the Clocktower at its heart is a social deception game, but unlike the other social deception games, like things like One Night Ultimate Werewolf, where I think a strong focus is basically, it's sort of like the way it manifests is kind of different. because I played a lot of like One Night Ultimate Werewolf, Mafia. I played like a decent amount of Among Us. Among Us to me feels like a very mechanical social deception game where it's like very much how you execute. There is a social element layered on top of it, of course, but I feel like because of there's a lot of more mechanical parts which play a more, not a more important role in a social part, but play a surprisingly important role in a social deception game. As opposed to traditional Mafia game with just the cards, which is almost like completely non-mechanical game. There's almost like no mechanics in it whatsoever. If you play the traditional one, it's just pure vibes. They're like we're not really the two extremes ends of a section. I'm sure there's a more mechanical social deception game out there, but I can't really think of one off the top of my head. Among Us is just popular. This sort of lands more. It's a weird mix. Because I think it's like my first impression with it is like, oh, it seems like quite a mechanical social deception game. Not that you have stuff to do, but more like it's a puzzle to be worked out. But, you know, after playing the first round, it turns out this game has so much false information in it, which makes it basically actually a very heavy social deception game, disguising itself as a mechanical one, if that makes sense. Because One Night Ultimate Werewolf is also like a somewhat slightly mechanical based one, where a lot of it is basically if you just play the game like straightforward, or like maybe the theoretical thing is like if the people who are bad don't say anything, you could straight up figure out exactly what happened. You have a concrete answer of knowing exactly what happened. It's very easy to figure out what happened, which is why as if you're evil in that game, the way you play is you basically have to throw in as much disconnect, distrust and false information as possible to disrupt how easy it is to basically figure out what's going on. So the One Night Ultimate Werewolf to me feels like a puzzle, a very tangled puzzle, where two other people are basically tying more knots as you're going, if you're the villager theme. This ends up being like, I think the first time I played, I was trying to treat it like One Night Ultimate Werewolf, because I was like, well, that's the only social deception I know, let's figure out what happened. I was on the good team. I was a Raven Keeper, which basically means when I die at night, I can choose someone and find out what their role is for sure. What I didn't realise is there is a lot of ways to cause false information in this game. Like a truly staggering amount of ways to get false information. Like you have a role which is a drunk who straight up just gets wrong information every single time. Well, not guaranteed, because there's another part which makes it lean much more social, is the fact that you have basically the equivalent of a dungeon master. You have a game master controlling exactly how it gets played. But you have a drunk who basically has no idea what on earth's going on. And then you have a poisoner who can also induce the same sort of thing. And then it's just so crazy, because the first game we played, I will say, from my perspective, I was getting very confused, because I was like, I basically, and who it was is one of my friends, who I'd say E, was evil, and another person I didn't know, who was a R, was the minion. And in my mind, I was like, okay, this person R is almost certainly evil. I think it's either E or my other friend F, I suppose. Who is evil, who is the imp or something like that. And I had possibility of this other person I didn't know, H, who might have been evil, or the imp. But I was a Raven Keeper. I don't know, I got killed or something for some reason on the second night. I don't necessarily know why that happened, but it did. And I had the chance to basically evaluate someone's role, and so I chose H, the person who I was like somewhat suspicious of at that time, because I was like, I don't know who they are, you know, like my friends I know pretty well, so I feel like I can pick up on when they're lying at least reasonably well. And I found out information, and it basically got to a point where I was just like, okay, I'm pretty sure it must be E and R, but I don't understand how that's even possible. And I was dead at this point, so like obviously I couldn't vote, and I didn't really say anything, because again, I was shooting at One Night Ultimate Werewolf. I was doing it very logic based. I was trying to work out through my head. I was like, in what possible way could this person be evil? Because I'm like, I believe my friend F. Just from the way they're speaking, I believe them. It seems just the vibe check is they're truthful. I know H is truthful because I checked them. But it just didn't make sense, because basically I saw H as a librarian. Librarian saw me and R as a drunk. So I was like, okay, so that must mean I'm drunk, but I'm drunk and I saw you correctly as a librarian? So either you just made an insane guess, or R must be the drunk, in which case that puts a hole in my plan, because the only thing I thought was R and E were evil together. And I was like, okay, so then who is evil? Because R and E are like, but were they like working together on opposite sides? I don't know. I mean, it very much confused me. But there was something I did think about, and I definitely thought I should have brought up, but since like by the time like it had brought up, like there was nothing I can do about it, was when it was like, oh no, that was why it was confusing. It was because I think I way overthought everything, to be honest. Because I was trying to basically try out every permutation in my head of who could have actually been evil with the knowledge that we got, because it was a very crazy coincidence where basically, as it turned out, the librarian got poisoned the first night, which, by the way, I didn't realise that was actually possible. That was my bad. The games master did say it, and I completely missed that. They were poisoned, got false information, so incorrectly identified the drunk. And I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. That makes everything work now. I was like, how is it possible that you think this is possible when I've guaranteed that you're this? And like, am I getting wrong information? I never considered that they could have started with wrong information. And as soon as that happened, like a real happened, I was like, I'm in. This game, like, it's unlocked in my brain. That is at a crazy amount of mechanics which can stack on top of each other. It was a poisoner having to guess correctly the librarian, and the librarian seeing the games master choosing these two to be the drunk, be seen as a drunk, and the actual drunk goes unscathed, so the drunk sort of covers for the evil person because they do not correctly identify that someone next to them is evil, and then me not being drunk, not being poisoned in that moment, correctly identifying them, vouching for them even harder, and then just added so much confusion to the mix. And there was a crazy moment where the poisoner, we were playing Tiny Town, for context, so apparently the imp doesn't know the minion, the minion poisoned the imp, preventing them from killing themselves, which, now I think about it, I'm not actually sure why they did that strategically, but it doesn't really matter. They probably had a plan. At the same time that the monk healed them. So we were just like, oh, you know, that's absolutely insane thing to happen. We were just like, oh, it must have been that the monk saved him or something, so this person must be good, unless they were trying to target themselves, which seems crazy in this circumstance. There was just so much confusion. So I think it does a very nice balance of how much social deception actually needs to go into the game itself. Because if you were like me and you tried to rely purely on logic, there's so many ways that false information could be spread about that basically almost every piece of information you have is like inconsistent. It makes it so difficult to figure out what's going on. And I think like all of us were playing for the first time, we weren't really sure either. Like I said like multiple times during a thing, being like, I have no idea what to do because I feel like I have no information. I think it's very much a game where you have a logical basis, you have a shaky logical basis to work on, and you basically have to take some sort of vibe check leap of faiths, which, to be fair, from what I saw in the dropout thing, I think it probably is better in a bigger group because, you know, killing someone off doesn't feel as impactful. And that's another brilliant thing about this game design. If you die, it basically doesn't matter for a lot of the time, unless you're the imp or demon, because you can still talk, you can still contribute. The only thing is you can't do is you can't nominate someone up for execution, and you can't vote things. But apparently you can be still targeted like as a dead body to do a lot of different things, and I'm like, that's crazy, because there can be some like crazy big brain plays. As I found out, like I was like, oh, does an imp have to kill someone every round? And it's like, oh yeah, the demon does have to target someone to die, including they could retarget a dead body, thus making it seem like the monk saved someone. And I'm like, whoa, the mind games are crazy in this game. That's insane. So it's a game where basically it has struck the balance from the two games I played, again, not enough experience to really judge, has struck a balance of, if you try and treat it purely as a logical basis of a game, you can't, because there's too much false information there which skews everything. It's sort of like playing One Night Ultimate Werewolf, except for half the information you get is already wrong. Which makes it so confusing. But it's also very interesting because it kind of forces you to the social side, because also a lot of the roles don't get that much information, right? So if you're an information gathering role, you had to play the social element to figure out who to trust. If you're non-information gathering role, then you had to try and find out the people who have the information to try and sort of discern things and build alliances that way. But it's not purely social, because there is actually active things you can do. Like, there's very subtle ways I think you can sort of discern things, which makes it very interesting. How far, like, does it lean too far on the social element to me, or does it lean too far on the mechanical element for me? I think for, I don't know, my optimal theoretical social deception game, which doesn't exist probably, I think maybe it leans a bit harder on the social side than I particularly like. And then, like, I don't know, I'm of two minds about it, because part of my analytical brain is like, whoa, I love it. This is like the hardest logic puzzle in existence to try and figure out. it's like, here are like 20 rules of this logic puzzle, and half of them are wrong. What happened? And there's only one right solution. That is like getting that logical, analytical part of my brain just like, oh, yes. And the social part of my brain is like, it feels like a very roleplay, like it's getting very friendly to like role-playing elements of it. You sort of break out into like little rooms, you're just like, hey, can I grab you? Like, let's go meet in the monastery, let's go chat there, that sort of thing. Which at first I was just basically doing arbitrarily. I was like, yeah, let's chat, you and me. And then it started becoming much more relevant later. And the second game was absolutely crazy as well, like absolutely insane stuff happening, but where basically the imp had a spy who the spy never told the imp any information, but the imp killed as if they had a spy, because they were picking literally the perfect targets to get every single time. And genuinely the evil team had it in the bag. It was just an unfortunate misplay at the end. But in my mind, like, who cares about that point? Like, it doesn't matter like the literal actual result. Like, if you played 95% of the way perfectly, then like 5% is RNG variance or just a mistake at the end, you won in my mind. Like, the majority of it was played correctly. You did the correct strategy. That's like how it should be. But I was playing the butler that game, which is very interesting. It's because it's interesting to have good roles, which you know are good roles, but are hindrances to the towns a lot of the time. So I was playing a butler, and then basically what happened in the last one is like I somehow stayed alive. It was me, someone who had like a useless ability, and the imp. And I had made the minion my master, essentially, so I couldn't vote, and as they voted, I didn't realise that with dead people, that it only works if they use their dead vote, and I was like, oh, that's quite dangerous. But I didn't really have a lot of option, because the two people who I left alive, like, the fortune teller was like, one of these two flagged as an imp to me. So it's like, I can't, like, then I'm just making a 50-50 guess now with less information about who I think actually is correct or not. In retrospect, I didn't know I could target dead people, but I definitely should have done it, but I should have targeted the other stranger who I fully believed to be a red herring, but I don't know. It was crazy. Good one in the end, as I say. Like, it doesn't really matter, because it was like, like, it's from a sole position, and it was just a mistake I was made. Who cares? No one cares about that in the end. But they're two great games, which really, I think, sold to me the concept of Blood on the Clocktower. Because beforehand, as I said, I was a bit more like, okay, we'll see how it goes. Social deception, I like the concept of more, I think, than I actually like playing it. But I think this one I actually had a lot of fun playing. I think if there was a roleplay element, like we had to like roleplay certain characters, I think I would absolutely adore it. But who knows? Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Definitely, of course, I'm interested in playing again, but we'll have to see how it goes. So, for now, I'm going to round this episode off here. I don't know, there's probably more I want to talk about Blood on the Clocktower, because I think the ways the roles interact with each other are some very clever things, which they do, which make it very interesting. But I think it's just a very well-balanced game, with the fact that, like, it's well-balanced from an enjoyment perspective, like, let alone a mechanical perspective, the fact that dead people can still sort of contribute and stuff. It prevents the situation of, oh, you were the first one to die in round with no information? Well, tough luck, you're sitting out for the next half an hour. So anyway, I'm going to round this episode off here. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.